Hi guys, in this video we'll be talking about what I've been up to on my layout in the month of January, so stay tuned, great content to come. Alright, so I did do a little bit progress on my actual track work on the layout. I started painting and weathering my track, but that will actually be fully covered in the February update installment of my layout series. For now we're going to focus on what actually I finished, which was my wiring. I have all my tortoises installed, all my frogs juiced, and I actually installed toggles for my tortoises and LED indicators on my layout. So I'll show you exactly how I did that. Alright, so all my tortoises are powered by this AC adapter. It is a 7-volt 500 milliamp adapter, more than enough to power my 9 tortoises. So basically the power goes into a series of 9 barrier strips that are daisy chained for your positive and negatives. Everything goes through that. Each tortoise switch has your standard 8 solder leads, and I only used 5. I used 1, 8, 2, 3, and 4. And then what I did in every tortoise machine is I hot glued a barrier strip either to underneath a tortoise switch or somewhere on the layout for better reach. So I have everything modular. If anything goes wrong with the wires or anything like that, I can fix it over. And then I'm going to show you a quick clip, but I'm going to show you more detailed pictures of how I did the actual control panels on this. So everything's neat and tidy, everything barrier stripped, just so it's a lot easier to troubleshoot. I had a lot of light coming in to the back of my control panels from my work light, so I did a little impromptu, hurried little valance on the back here just to kind of prevent the light showing through the back of the panels. The way I did the panels was I printed out a larger version of my track plan. I mounted it to a sheet of styrene, glued that onto a sheet of styrene, then sandwiched it with a clear piece of polycarbonate board, drilled through all my toggles and my LED positions. So I just did main control board for my crossover, my yard lead, and then the one industry spur on top of my layout. Then I did another section for the 2 switches on my lower industries, and then for my number 8 going off the main line to do the 2 lines. So I just did 2 separate control panels. In hindsight, I should have probably did a bigger one toggle, but in the end I kind of liked how this kind of turned out. So next to come is some pictures of actually the back of my control panels and how they're wired, and then after that I'm going to show you a detailed step-by-step way of how I actually wired my control panels and my tortoises by actually me giving you a drawn diagram and explaining you the process, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, so this is how I wired my control panels for LEDs and controlling the tortoises and switches. So we got your tortoise here with your 1 through 8 soldering pins on the bottom. You're going to need a double pull, double throw toggle switch. So you have your 6 contacts. You're going to need your 2 LEDs. You're going to need a 4-section barrier strip and your power supply. And to make it easier for you guys, I'm using red for your positive, and then your green for your negative. So we're going to start with a toggle switch. What you first have to do, I'm just going to use the black for this. You have to cross your outer pins in an X. So you would do top left to bottom right, top right to bottom left. Next you would attach your LEDs, and the way that works is you have a negative and positive on your LEDs, and you're going to crisscross them. So you're going to know this on your LEDs, one leg is shorter than the other. You can add a resistor if you want on both legs, if you want, anywhere from a 400 to a 600 ohm resistor. I'm not using it because the Tortoise only does a maximum of 1 amp output. So that's not going to really blow out your LEDs. It's just going to make them super bright. If you want your LEDs to be a lot more dimmer, then you can play with resistors. Plus I'm only using 7 volt 500 milliamp AC power supply anyway, so not enough juice to burn out the LEDs. So once you crisscross your LEDs, you take 1 lead, so it could be positive or negative, doesn't really matter. You do 1 lead to the 1 contact of your middle resistor, and then your other lead will go into one side of your barrier strip. Then you're going to take the other lead from the toggle switch to, sorry, you're going to make that different polarity. You're going to do that to your other connection on your barrier strip. So you're going to have a positive going to the switch, a negative going to the barrier strip, and then your other polarity is going to go from the switch to the other polarity on the barrier switch. So these two here are going to be your leads that go to the Tortoise machine, and these are going to be your leads that go to the power supply, like so. So what you're going to do next is wire your leads from the top here. So you're going to have a positive and negative coming from the top of the toggle switch. And then you're going to go with those to your power, like so. And the reason why I use the barrier strips is because depending how your switch is oriented and your LEDs are oriented, if your LEDs are indicating the wrong track or vice versa, you can basically just quickly unscrew your leads and play with the barrier strip like so. So that's how you wire your toggle switch, that's how you wire your LEDs. And then from there, sorry, it's going to crisscross a little bit, guys. From there, you take your positive to either your 1 or 8 on the toggle switch, your negative to the 1 or positive, vice versa. Again, you can play with the polarities depending on how you want your switch to throw. So basically, this is wired to your switch, and then your power contacts will be wired to the plus and minus on your power supply. So what happens is the power goes in from the power supply to your barrier strip into the top 2 or the bottom 2 contacts on your toggle switch. Really, it doesn't matter. Then your middle contacts on your toggle switch, one goes to your LED hookup, the other goes to right to the barrier strip, and those will go to the Tortoise. So basically, when the power goes through the toggle switch to power the tortoise, it tells you which LEDs will light up and which one will light, which one will go dark. Now, if you want to juice your frog on your switch, sorry, I actually didn't draw a switch here. I'm going to just do a hokey switch here. So what you're going to do to wire your frog is, if this is your positive rail and this is your negative rail on your switch, and this is your frog, we're going to just use the black for the frog. What you're going to do, your frog lead, I'll just do this so it's kind of confusing. Your frog lead will always go to your pin number 4 on your tortoise, and then your positive will go to 2 or 3 depending on how your tortoise is set up with all this. So we'll just do that as a 2, and then your negative will be a 3. So basically, when you toggle your switch, the tortoise has 2 single pull, I think it's single pull double throw switches in the tortoise. So basically, there's one half, there's the other half. So what it's gonna do when it switches your switch, it's also going to switch your frog power either with negative or positive. So depending which way your switch is thrown, if you wire it correctly, you're gonna have your frog either negative or positive depending on which way your train's gonna go. And that's again why I like to use the barrier strips for this, is because it's really easy to unscrew and switch your wires around to make sure everything works correctly. If you're getting a short or a cross or anything like that, that's the easiest way to do it. The only thing that I directly solder is the switch, the LEDs, and the leads to the tortoise. Everything else has a power barrier. When we get back, I'm going to show you how to wire the crossover. Alright, so to power the barrier strip, you pretty much go the same way as we did beforehand. We do the cross of the toggle switch. We do positive and negative to the power input on the barrier strip. On that. Okay, and then basically that goes to your power and your power supply, like so. The way I set up my LEDs for the crossover is I have an LED light indicating your through right of way. So basically the crossover is switched where the track is going parallel, there's no crossover. And I have a third LED in the middle indicating that the crossover is activated, so it's going to go crossover. We have 3 LEDs. So how you're going to wire the LEDs, again, you don't need resistors, you can if you need to. So you're going to wire this a little bit differently. You're going to wire your 2 outer indicators positive to positive. It's going to get a little bit confusing. And then negative to negative. So you're going to have, so you would basically wire these normally. Then your third LED, which will indicate your crossover, that's the one you do opposite. So you do negative to positive, and then positive to negative across those 2 LEDs. So basically what's going to happen when the switch turns over, 2 of the LEDs are going to be wired positive to positive, negative to negative. So the switch is going to, the circuit's going to think it's 1 LED, but it's really 2. So you're going to have your 2 LEDs on when the switch is on your through, and then it's going to turn the 2 outer ones off and only power the middle one when the switches are instructed to go to the crossover. So again, you're going to have a positive and a negative lead, and you can decide which way you want to go depending how you wire. You're going to do it to that, and then your outer one's going to go to 1, barrier of the strip, and then that lead's gonna go like that. Then what you're gonna do, you're gonna pick a tortoise, which one you want to go with. Again, 1 and 8. So let's just say you're gonna go positive to this tortoise machine, and then negative into that slot of the tortoise machine. So you have the power powering the one tortoise machine, but obviously you want to have one toggle switch control both tortoises at the same time, but in the opposite direction because you're having crossover. So what you're gonna do from there is you're gonna switch around the wires. You're gonna basically connect the two tortoises in series, but you're gonna cross them over. So you're gonna do you're gonna take your positive from your first tortoise machine, and you're gonna go to from 1 to 8, and then your negative from 8 to 1 on this machine. So basically you're reversing the polarity from one tortoise to the other. So when you're switching them with one switch, the tortoise is basically one moves left, one moves right. So you have your tortoises pretty much going opposite for your crossover. So when we get back with this video, some closing remarks. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I hope you liked the step-by-step drawn diagram tutorial of how I wired things up in terms of my tortoises and control panel. I could have just done a simple wiring diagram, but I have a hard time following them and they're a little bit confusing, so hopefully this step-by-step way was a little bit less confusing for everybody. If you have any questions or need anything cleared up, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. As usual, I want to thank you for watching this video, subbing, sharing, liking, and commenting, and I will see you in the next video covering what I've done in the month of February. Take care.